Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's Dina with JCC Association and the JCC Maccabi team. We're going to give it a couple of minutes to let everybody join us. So thank you for hanging on. And again, thank you for taking the time to join us this morning as we review connecting roommate requests and confirming in the system.
This is weird.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's Dina with JCC Maccabi team. We're just going to give it another minute or two to let some stragglers join us, and we'll go ahead and kick off in reviewing connecting your roommates and confirming your teens and adults in the system. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and kick off. Again, it's Dina with JCC Maccabi. Thank you guys so very much for taking the time to join me this morning into afternoon as we review connecting your roommates and confirming all of your participants in the back end of the RegPack system. The way that I typically work these will stop in between for questions. I have our chat box open, so if at any point in time you have any questions while I'm talking, please feel free to jot them in there. But again, we will take scheduled breaks sort of throughout this webinar to open it up for questions. So first, we're going to start with why roommate requests. Why is this something that's important for you guys to do, and why is this something that's important for you to be a part of? And I want to make it very clear that if we do not go in the system and we do not connect our roommate requests for our teens, they're not going to be pulled into the matching system together. So even if you've gone in, and again, this will all make a little bit more sense for our newbies as we get a little deeper into the slides, but if you go into the system and you're simply reviewing that they've entered roommate requests, but you're not connecting them, they're not being pulled into the matching system together. They're being pulled individually. Again, once those roommate requests are made, we're looking at you guys to be that best piece of information for your coaches, for your chaperones, for anybody who may know these kids that you're taking with your delegation, to be our insider information. Of course, situations happen. We can't solve or resolve all of them before we get there, and we will always have instances and we will work together to solve them. But if we set ourselves up for success, the number of incidences declines. So we are looking at you guys to be our sort of eyes and ears for your teens as you're making those connections. Something that I want to point out this year, and I'll point out several times throughout this training, is that for Atlanta this year, we kindly ask, and we've adjusted the system, that you connect your teens in pairs. That means your teens can only enter one roommate request into the system. We understand that there are going to be several of you that have groups that are larger than 2, where you may have a teen who has a friend or a family in the host community who has said, I can take 6 kids, what do you mean 2? And we'll work with you guys on how to make that happen. And there are little workarounds and with permission and after talking to the family. But just so you guys understand where this is coming from, in Atlanta this year, they're looking at between 550 and 570 local teens. So as you can imagine, that gives us somewhere between 550 and 570 host families without having to extend in the community to look for additional families. So if you put 2 teens in each one of those homes, we've pretty much already hit our ascribed number for the games in Atlanta this summer. So that's really why we're doing this and why we've limited those requests. It has nothing to do with we want to separate your kids. It has nothing to do with we want to pull them apart. It simply is because we want to ensure that the host community is getting the full hosting experience. And in that is making sure their athletes and their local teams are able to host visiting teams. So again, we kindly request that when you're linking kids in the system for Atlanta, it's 1 per teen. Everybody gets 1 friend, no more than pairs. And again, in Detroit, it's a minimum of 2 per house and a maximum of 4 per house. Again, we understand some of you will have 6 or more, and we'll work with you offline one-on-one for what that looks like to make sure we're setting you guys up the way that your kids and your host families have requested to be set up. There are going to be instances where you maybe have 1 female athlete, or you have 1 12-year-old athlete, or you have 1 artist in Detroit where you don't have a roommate request or you don't have a good pairing for that teen. In that situation, what we'd love for you to do is to reach out to JCC Association and know that we're here to help. That if you work with us, we will work with you and the other delegation heads to ensure that you find the perfect match for that teen. With that, we also request that you don't wait to the last minute to reach out to us. And that if you know you have an artist registered and you don't have a roommate request for that teen, we'd ask that you go ahead, you'll reach out to us as soon as you know that's the case. And again, we will work with the other visiting delegation heads. We will work with sort of the other information that we have through the system to make sure we're finding appropriate roommates for those teens. Something that's important to remember as well is that teens can house with other delegations, with teens from other delegations. If this is the instance for you where, again, your teen went last year, had the time of his life, made a best friend, and wants to room with that teen this year, we just ask that you reach out to us or you reach out to that delegation head. And what will happen is we'll make sure that they've put the same request for their teen as you have for yours. They'll connect in the system and it'll be fine. It looks like we had a question that came in. Can brother and sister's siblings be housed together? Yes. In those instances, we're going to ask that, again, in Detroit, where you've got the option for 4, you have the brother pick a roommate and the sister pick a roommate. So it'll be 2 boys and 2 girls going into that household. In Atlanta, we'll ask that it's a boy and a girl, or the brother and the sister, or the cousin, whatever the case may be. And then we will put them in a home where 2 local athletes are brother and sister or siblings as well. So know that we'll always find a pair, and it'll never just be a brother and a sister. We will find a pairing off in that household as well. But yes, they are able to house together, and you'll see in the system when your roommates are entering their roommate requests, they do have the opportunity under relationship to select sibling as that relationship. Any other questions for this general why we're doing the roommate requests, why we need your help, and what your potential role is in this process before we dive into the technical aspect? Great, thanks guys. So how do you review your roommate request? So already, as your teens register, they go in the system and they're putting in their request. So I want to take a second and I want to go live into the system so you can sort of see what it looks like. What we always will encourage you to do is to pull a report on your roommates prior to going in the system and actually playing with it. And in order to do that, you would go ahead and you would filter. Please note that I'm adding a delegation and I have permission from this delegation head to review their delegation. I'm doing this because I have full access to this. As you guys only see your local delegation, you're going to go ahead and you're going to filter for level of participation. as either athlete, or if you're in Detroit, athlete and artist. Once you've applied your filter, you're going to run a report. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to view all reports. And we're going to go to Teens Roommate Request Report. You'll click View. And we'll go ahead and you'll download this as a CSV. What you'll find in this CSV and what you'll find in this Excel document that'll be generated out of the system is going to be all the information as it relates to what you're doing in the system for matching. And it'll allow you to sort of play the puzzle piece, right? We're saying, do they require a smoke-free home? Are they a vegetarian? Are they allergic to dogs or cats? Do they require any kind of kosher home? And then do they have a specific roommate request? So the things that are important to pay attention to with the specific roommate requests is that you will find instances where the teen has indicated no, they do not have a specific roommate request. Again, per our conversation from the last slide, every teen must enter the system with a roommate request and a roommate connection. So what that means is if you have a teen that's indicated no, it's your responsibility to find one other person to house them within Atlanta or 1 to 3 other people to house them within Detroit. And again, every single teen will need to go into the system with a roommate request and a connection. So our first step is going through and making sure that every single one of our teens has a request. One of the other things that's important to keep in mind here is names. And as we discussed in our previous trainings, having the first and the last name of either the host family that they'd like to stay with or their roommate request is quintessential. If this is off in any capacity, the system will not line it up, right? It's a black and white system. It's looking at it in numbers. It can't think things through. So for example, if little Justin was looking for a roommate request and he was staying with Daniel, but when Daniel registered himself, he put his first name as Dan. Because Justin has entered the roommate request as Daniel, and there is no Daniel with that last name in the system, it's Dan, the system is not going to find them and it's not going to match them. It's not going to give you the opportunity to connect them. So we need to make sure that all of our teens are in there with the names that match their roommate requests as that individual has entered it in their own registration. Same thing for host families. If your teens have a host family request in Atlanta or Detroit where they have a relative or a family friend or somebody they know they want to house with, we need you to be our eyes and ears and make sure that information is entered correctly. Over the past several years, we found that when a teen is entering or their family is filling out their registration, when they get to do you have a member in the host community that you'd like to stay with, they simply enter yes and yes for the first and last name. Again, that's going to do nothing for us in the system. It's not going to connect them in any capacity. So we need you, again, to be our eyes and ears and look through the system and ensure that it's matching up properly. Any questions about that process and about extracting the information from the system to be able to manipulate it and make all of your visual changes so that you can then go back into the system and make the actual changes? Great. So as we spoke about, you're going to go in the system and you're going to do all of your rearranging in an Excel that you've extracted from the system, and some things that you should think about and keep in mind as you're reviewing your matches and as you're reviewing your requests are, again, has each teen selected the correct roommate request? Do they match? So for example, we have child A, B, C, and D. Did A pick B and B pick A? Did C pick D and D pick C? Or did A pick B and B pick D? So you have to make sure that all of them line up appropriately and that children have selected one another. Again, if they haven't, it's your role as a delegation head to play Jewish roommate matchmaker and make sure that everybody aligns up the way that they're supposed to. One of the other things to keep in mind is, do these sports or venues match up? When you guys attend the spring delegation head meetings at the end of this month and the beginning of April, what you'll learn in these meetings are what sports and what specialties are happening at what venues. So again, remember that confirmations and roommate request connections are not due until May 1st. And we will be having this training again in April once we get back from the spring DH meetings, just to review this again to make sure everybody is comfortable with this process. But once you know the venues, you'll be able to say to yourself, okay, I know that tennis, basketball, and softball are happening at one venue. So I can put those kids who are in those sports together as roommates because it makes it easy for the host family to drop off in the morning. Please know that that piece is not a defining factor. We know that some of you will never be able to line them up. If you've got a smaller delegation or a larger delegation, it simply won't happen. Again, that is something we just ask you to keep in mind as you're going through the process. One of the other things that, again, we spoke about before a little bit is the teen's temperament. Will these teens be a good match? Are they kids that are on the same baseball team, are going to spend all day together, and then maybe need some time apart in the evening, even though they're best friends? Or are these kids that are on different teams and are great friends and will be perfectly matched together at the end of the day? So we want you guys to think through these processes as you're looking at your matching requests. So again, now we've gone through, we've looked at all of our requests, and we're ready to go ahead and go into the system and make sure that we're making these edits so that when it comes time to match them in the system, they're all reflective and we have an easy 1, 2, 3 process. So in order to do that, again, we're making sure that every teen is selected. Yes, we're making sure that every teen is lined up. In order to make these edits, it's the same way you would make any edit to any other form in the system. You'd go ahead in the top right-hand corner of your screen. You'd be able to use that search username or login email to find the teen you're looking for. You'll click on their status bar. You'll see the drop-down of all of the forms associated with that user. You'll go ahead and click on Housing Questions, Teens. And from there, you'll scroll down to the questions as they correlate to roommate requests. You'll ensure that everybody has yes as their answer, and you'll ensure that the names line up and at least, again, a minimum of 1 roommate request in Detroit and a maximum of 4. And in Atlanta, it's 1 roommate request per teen. They're going in as pairs. Any questions about editing a request in the system? Perfect. So now we're going to connect our teens in the system. We've gone through every single one of our teens, has a roommate request, all the names are spelled correctly, everything matches up properly and perfectly, so connecting in the system is going to be simple. So one of the tricks of the trade that I want to remind you of here, and we'll show you in the system quickly, is, and we went through this in our front and our back end training, is isolating a user's form. And this will allow you to only look at the housing forms for all of your teens and not have to piggyback and click through all of the user's forms. So again, we're going to filter by level of participation. As a caveat, please remember here, I'm adding J-Team. I have permission from the delegation to use this, and it's only because I have access to all delegations in the system. So all you will be filtering for is athlete if you're in Atlanta, and athlete and artist if you're in Detroit. Once you've applied your filter, you're selecting all. We're going to view forms, and we're selecting teen housing questions. This will allow you to simply toggle with the next button and see your housing form for every single one of your teens. Again, this makes it a more seamless process, and it means you don't have to click back and forth. So as you'll see here, great, the teen is a yes, but according to the system, Noah Liebman has not been found. This can mean one of 2 things, or one of 3 things. Noah Liebman has not yet registered. Noah Liebman is registered but hasn't registered with that name, or something is different in the system, and again, the name is spelled wrong, and it's just not finding them correctly in the system. Please note that the other pieces here are not going to matter in the actual matching or finding them in the process. This is information for us and the host community to know while we're matching. The only thing that's pulling into those kids being individuals and being found in the system is that first name and that last name. Again, going back to our training, what you'll see once you're in the system and once you're on that teen housing form is one of 2 boxes. One is that what we saw on that last screen where it didn't find him in the system yet because he either hasn't registered or that name is entered incorrectly. The other screen that you're going to see is this gradient screen up here, and it's your admin approval of request. And it says, yay, this roommate request was found. It's going to give you the name of the roommate request. And then it's going to show you the friendship group. It's going to show you all of the kids that have requested each other and what will happen if you approve that request. So for example, this is where you're going to see if A correctly selected B and B correctly selected A. And again, you've already gone through the system and you've made these edits, so for all intents and purposes, this should all line up. In the instance that you may have made a mistake or it doesn't line up, this is when you'll see that extra teen that may be thrown in. So for example, A selected B, B selected C, C selected A. Those 3 kids are now going to be connected, even though B didn't select A and B selected C, because C selected A and A selected B, they're all now connected. I know it's a lot of letters I'm throwing at you. I'm hoping I'm trying to give as many examples of it as I can, But again, then you'll see those 3 teens, that A, B, and C, linked up here under that friendship request. For Atlanta, you'll know something's off. You'll go ahead, you'll make the necessary adjustments. You'll make sure that A aligns with B and C aligns with D, and then you'll go ahead and you'll approve the request. Again, it's only 2 for Atlanta. It's up until 4 for Detroit with a minimum of 2. Once you've reviewed, you've looked at it, you've got the roommate request, you've got the 2 teens, it makes sense. You're going ahead, you're clicking that edit button on that form to make everything malleable, and you're hitting approve request. Once you've done so, that dialog box is going to turn green. That approve request is going to turn into a disconnect button, and you'll see that that roommate request is now appearing at the top of the housing form as well. You're going to go ahead and click save, and now that teen has been connected in the system. Any questions regarding the actual connection process? Great. And you're going to go ahead again, you've already filtered and you've viewed form for just the housing form. So you're quickly going through one after another and you're connecting all the roommate requests. Now, all of your roommate requests have been confirmed. It's time to, and connected. It's time to go ahead and confirm your teens. Again, do not confirm your teens until you have connected their roommate requests in the system. In addition to confirming our teens, we're also confirming all of our adult participants. This is inclusive of your coaches, your chaperones, yourselves as delegation heads, and as you reviewed in our last training, your spectators. The ones that have deadlines and penalties due and associated with them are going to be your general confirmation kit, your general confirmation page. This is for all of your coaches, chaperones, delegation heads, and team participants. There is also the medical confirmation page, which is due at a later date, and that is just for your athletes and artists and your team participants. Again, we're going to go through the details of this entire process in a moment, so please bear with us, pay attention. Again, I'm going to be sending you guys this training afterwards in addition to the recording of this training, and one of the last slides on this training is important things to keep in mind. So we really do try to spell this out for you guys and make it as easy as possible. So all participants must have their general confirmation page completed and confirmed in RegPack by May 1st. If this is not the case, there is a $125 late fee per person. One of the things that's important to remember here, for all of you going to Detroit with artists, there are no late fees for artists. We understand that you're recruiting them constantly through the process. With that, we do expect that any of your approved and accepted and registered artists are confirmed and their confirmation pages have been completed. Again, in order to do so, you're going to filter by the type of user. You're going to put in additional filters, such as all of the things and all of the forms that you want associated so you know that user is ready to be confirmed. You're going to go ahead, apply that filter. It's only going to show you the users that are ready to be confirmed. And then you're going to go ahead, select all of them. Again, select view forms because it'll make it easy. And you can toggle through just the confirmation pages. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to start the confirmation process. I want to take a peek into the actual system so that everybody sees what the confirmation pages look like. One thing I also want to be transparent about as well is one of the issues that we found this year, unfortunately, with RegPack is they changed their process. And unfortunately, some forms carried over from 18 to 19 with existing information. Those forms are going to be any of your upload forms, in addition to a notice confirmation pages. We went ahead in the system a couple of weeks ago and refreshed all of the confirmation pages. So you do not have to worry about any of your 18 participants being confirmed in the system. However, because there already been hundreds of uploads to the system, we were not able to wipe the uploads. So what that means is teens who participated in 2018, those uploaded forms have carried over for 2019. In the instance of photo, proof of age, potentially health insurance, this is fine. Those will still be valid. The thing we need to be very careful of are the 2019 medical forms. We need to make sure that we get new medical forms for 2019. So again, you'll see on the right-hand side of your users for your athletes and for your adults is where the confirmation pages live. As we mentioned, there's 2 confirmation pages for your athletes. It's going on your artists. It's your general and your medical. your general, and again, guys, we've done everything we can to try to make this as easy for you as possible. Everything that we're asking you to certify and put your stamp of approval on, we're showing you an image of. In the instance that you don't see an image, all that means that the individual has uploaded it in a PDF form. In that case, you will see the name of the PDF file. You'll simply click on the name of the PDF file, and that form will open in another window for you to view. So we're looking at the headshot. Is this an appropriate photo? Can we see this teen's face? One of the things that we talked about in our last training, and I want to remind everybody in this confirmation training, is it does not matter what the photo looks like on the upload page. It matters what the photo looks like here on the confirmation page, because this is how it will be printing on your teen's credential and on your user's credential. So we want to make sure it's a clear headshot. This is a great headshot. We'd go ahead and we'd confirm. We're looking at the the insurance card. Is that correct? Is it legible? Yes. So perfect. Here's an example of something that's uploaded as a PDF. You'll see the name of the PDF, and you'll notice once we hover over, it becomes a clickable link. Once you click on that, it will upload in a separate form, on a separate tab, and you'll be able to review. Again, we're looking at the roommate request. Please note that it is showing us as roommate request, even though we have not confirmed and connected it in the system. That's why it's so important to do that step first. Just because we're clicking confirmed here, this is just so when the host community pulls reports, it's easy and clear for them to know who you wanted them paired with, so that they can make sure and check it off in the system. This does not mean, again, that they have been connected. You have to connect them first. Then you're going to be asked to confirm the delegation, and then if you're arriving early. Early arrivals must have been approved with JCC Association and the host community ahead of time, and you'll know who you are. 9 times out of 10, it's the international delegations. Please note that if you are participating in the JCC Association pre-weekend, you are not arriving early. You are part of a separate pre-weekend program. You will be arriving to JCC Maccabi Games and Arts Fest or JCC Maccabi Games on that Sunday, that kickoff of the event. So you guys are not going to be clicking early. You'll also notice there are questions here. These are just for the host community. They relate for them tracking if they're VIPs, if they need local housing, and if they've signed up to be a host family. You're also then going to indicate for us that the athlete's sport is correct or that the artist's art specialty is correct. And you're going to indicate if they're on a mixed team. Again, these are all things that the host community will pull and use as a checklist, and we will use the checklist as we're making mixed teams to make sure that all of our information is correct. We get it in the sports breakdowns, we want it here. It's just a balancing act. One of the things you'll see here is this big red note, and it's basically letting you know that there's one last confirmation that's going to appear. It's only going to appear once all of these sub-confirmations have been done. The other thing that you'll notice on both the medical confirmation page and the general confirmation page for all users is a comment box. This is where you're going to provide feedback and commentary to myself and our team at JCC Association, as well as the host community. So for example, as we talked about before, let's say you have 3 teens that need to be in a home together in Atlanta. And there's all sorts of reasons why. This is where you're going to put that information. You're going to list the name of those kids. You're going to put the same note in every single one of those kids' comments. And the host community and myself at JCC Association are looking at this. We're looking at this during the matching process. We're looking at this during the confirmation process. And we're highlighting, we're paying attention to these details. So this is where you're leaving us that feedback. This is also where you're leaving us commentary as it relates to the teen. For example, if you know the teen may suffer from anxiety, or you know the teen may have an issue as it gets later in the night and has behavioral problems as a result, if you know this teen has triggers, this is where you're giving us any of that additional information that you feel may help us set this teen up for success. Again, guys, the underlining goal for all of this is making sure we're providing our teens the best possible experience we can. So the better and the more information in, the better prepared we can be to provide those teens that best experience. So any of that additional information you may want to share with us, this is where you're leaving it. Additionally, as we're going through, and this year I will be doing the confirmations, as you're going through the system, and as we're confirming your teens, if there's anything incorrect, we're leaving that feedback in that comment box as well. And we'll very clearly note where it's coming from, when we've left the comment, who the comment is from. But you'll see that in those comment boxes as well. The other confirmation page is going to be the medical confirmation page. And what you'll see here is it's much less cumbersome than the general confirmation page. Again, you're going to see the Maccabi health forms. That's going to be our medical form, as well as the teens' immunization records. As a reminder, for 2019, the only way to be exempt from vaccinations is for medical purposes. And if that's the case, in place of the teens' immunization records, you're going to upload a notarized letter from the teen's doctor indicating that they are not vaccinated because of medical reasons. So there's always going to be something uploaded in both of these. It's going to be our 2019 medical form and either the teen's vaccination records or a notarized letter from the doctor indicating that they are not vaccinated because of medical reasons. Again, when you click on the form, you click edit, it becomes editable. When you click on it, it'll appear in a new window and you'll go ahead and be able to confirm. Again, all we're asking you to do is one confirmation here. Again, there's comment boxes. If there's anything medically we should know about this teen, you're adding it there. But again, we've collected most of that information on the front. This comments box here is predominantly where if something is wrong and we need you to go in and fix it, that's where we're going to be leaving you that comeback and that feedback as you're going through your confirmation pages. So again, this slide is covering exactly what we just went through. Again, you're going to do the same thing for your adult confirmation pages. The difference is, again, it's going to be a little less cumbersome. We're looking at that photo, that insurance, that proof of age, and that background check status. So one thing to remember, in 2018, we switched our background check company from NSCI to Verified Volunteers. While there are upsides, as in we get background checks results in 2 days rather than 2 weeks, we do need those background checks to be pushed every single year. So if your coaches and chaperones haven't gotten into the system yet, if you haven't gone into the system yet and registered, please go ahead and do that as soon as possible, as we're going to need your background checks processed. We are currently working with RegPack to update the confirmation page for background checks for adults. My hope is that this will be implemented on Friday. If not, we will be communicating with you on Friday with updates. What this will mean is that when you're looking at your coach's background check page and when you're looking at their confirmation page, it will very clearly say processed, checked, and cleared, processed, checked, not cleared, or in process or has not been started. So you'll be able to visually go into the system and check to see where in the process your adults are. Again, that is not currently set up. Our hope, and we've been building the technology, is that that will be implemented on Friday. So again, if you can go in and start working with your teens and looking at their confirmation pages, taking care of their medical confirmation pages now, that's a great place to start. Again, remember this is due May 1st, so we have a little bit of time. We just want to ensure you guys are comfortable with the system. So again, for your adults, it's one overall confirmation for their complete and things. Again, that same carryover is going to happen. So any of your adults from 2018 who are participating in 19, their photo, their insurance, their proof of age, that is all going to carry over. If they want to update and upload a new photo, that's perfectly fine. As long as the insurance is still valid, we're happy to keep those forms in the system for them. Again, the medical confirmations we spoke through, one of the things that's important to remember is that we do require the 2019 JCC Maccabi form for every single one of your teens by the time they're stepping foot in the host community. We do allow for placeholders, which will be a 2018 medical. It cannot be older than 2018. It doesn't have to be Maccabi. It can be another medical, but we need it to show that that teen is in good health standing. Please note that all these vaccination records and all these medical forms are pulled out of the system and are provided to our host community's medical team. So that's why we're asking you to put your stamp of approval that everything is legible. That's why it's so important that you guys are getting in the system and doing your due diligence, because again, these are all being extracted and shared with the medical team and reviewed. So we're just asking you guys to help us out and make sure that this is a smooth process as best it can be. Any questions about the confirmation process before we go over our important things to remember? Great, so what I'm getting from you guys is we're gonna have no late fees this year. Everybody's going into the system connected with a roommate request. I can't wait for this, guys. It's gonna be incredible. So again, the important things to remember just as we're going through and we're going in and we're confirming and connecting our teens. Every teen must have at least one roommate request. If they have indicated they do not have a roommate request, you're going in and you're editing. In Atlanta, it's 2 teens per home. In Detroit, it's a minimum of 2 teens per home and a maximum of 4. Again, in Detroit or Atlanta, if you have different size groups, we ask that you please connect based on these quantities and leave us feedback in that comment section for those larger groups. The only caveat to this, and I apologize for not making it clear earlier, is if you have a specific home in either Atlanta or Detroit that has told you and confirmed with you they can take more teens, we ask that you still pair your teens and group your teens in 2 to 4 in Detroit and only 2 in Atlanta. But what you're gonna do is for every single one of those teens where there has the request for if they have a specific host family, you're going to put that host family name on every single one of those teens' registrations. What'll happen is that will pop up in the back end of the matching system, and we will know that all of those teens go together in that home, and that host community will have, that host family will have indicated they could take 4, 6, 8, whatever the number is. We will see that the numbers align, and that will automatically happen. But again, please don't connect them in groups larger than 4 in Detroit and smaller than 2 and larger than 2 in Atlanta. Your general confirmation pages are due May 1st. These are for all of your users. As we reviewed in our last back-end training, if you get all of your confirmation pages completed by April 17th, I will go in, I will check them and provide you feedback. This means that you will have time to follow up with your families in the instance that something is wrong, fix it in the system, and not get charged a late fee. So remember, guys, the deadline to have everything in and due without a late fee is May 1st, but if you'd like that review process to happen, it's April 17th. For your medical confirmation pages, again, we understand because of insurance and other pieces, they're due June 28th. June 14th is for that checking and feedback process. Again, it's 2 weeks before. It looks like we got a question in from Andrew. I want to confirm artists can room with athletes. Yes. Thank you for asking that question, Andrew. Last year, for those of you who are with us, because of the spatial difference, we had to have athletes with athletes and artists with artists. In 2019, we are happy to say the more the merrier. Let them mingle and let them mix. We can have athletes with artists and artists with athletes, and any breakdown. Again, aside from siblings, we must keep same gender. As we discussed in our training, we do now have the option in our registration system for the binary and choose not to disclose gender options. In those situations, we will reach out to you. We will work with you and the host community to find appropriate roommate matching and appropriate host families. I want to review our late fees for the general confirmation page. So that's anybody who is not connected with a roommate, anybody who is not confirmed in the system by May 1st is going to be liable for that late fee. I want to be very clear here, guys, because in the past, we have not been sticklers about the roommate request connecting. There haven't been late fees associated with that, even though it was a part of the confirmation process. We're doing these trainings this year. We're being very intentional and very specific about it. So you will get charged a late fee for that teen if they are not connected in the system by May 1st. Again, the caveat to that, of course, is we know some of your artists are going to come in after May 1st. That's okay. You can connect them after the fact. We know you're going to have replacement teens. You can connect them after the fact and make those adjustments. You'll communicate with us and we'll help you through that process. The medical confirmation late fee is for your, again, all of your teen participants. It's $100 per teen. So in theory, if you guys are not on top of things, you can have late fees of up to $225 per teen and $125 per adult. If you're not paying attention to this, as you can imagine, these can add up quickly. There is then the replacement fee, which is $125. And this basically is just, you're not going to get a general or a medical confirmation late fee. It's just going to be $125. And that's in the instance that you have a teen or a coach or chaperone who is replacing an individual who had to drop for whatever reason the case may be. So guys, again, thank you so much. I want to open up the floor again. I'm going to unmute everybody. I'm going to open up the floor for any questions we may have. That chat box is open. I'm always here to help. My general rule of thumb is I never, ever, ever want you guys to feel like you need to throw your computer out the window because of RegPack. So any questions you have along the way, any troubles that pop up, I'm here to help. Please don't hesitate to reach out, call, email, and I turn the floor to you guys. All right, great. Again, thank you guys so much for taking the time to join me this afternoon and this morning. Please, any questions along the way as you go through this process, don't hesitate to reach out and let me know, and we'll be more than happy to work through it with you. Have a great day, everyone.